Hi, this is Dan Recchia with Alesis. I'm with the development team for Alesis Drums, and I'm here with Kraft Music today, proudly showing our flagship kit, the Strike Pro. And remember, for a great deal, check out the bundles at Kraft Music. They'll get you set up with everything you need to go along with your kit, like the hi-hat stand, kick pedal, cables, headphones, everything you need. So Alesis has been making electronic drums for quite some time now, and I can say this is the best kit that we've ever made. So why electronic drums? For some people, it's because they're in a place where they can't play acoustic drums, and for others, it's because they want to push beyond what acoustic drums can do. For both of those cases, though, it's important that we are comfortable, because comfortable musicians are creative musicians. So let's go over a few things on Strike Pro that make that happen. So first, let's talk about the drum and cymbal configuration. So one of the most important things to being comfortable is having familiar drum sizes. And on Strike, we use all real drum sizes. So the toms, for instance, are 8-inch, 10-inch, 12-inch, and 14-inch with a 14-inch snare. Having that 14-inch snare in front of you is really, really important to being comfortable and centered when you're playing. Also a 14-inch kick drum, which helps with that. Not only are these real sizes, but they're actually real wood drum shells made of birch and cottonwood. The birch is traditional, durable drum shell wood, and the cottonwood actually helps quiet the drum down. Now, mounted on these real drum shells are our Alesis mesh heads. So what do mesh heads do? They give a much more realistic response compared to a regular rubber head, and they also are tensionable, so you can make it tighter or looser to fit your playing style. We have 3 14-inch crashes, 16-inch ride, and a 12-inch movable hi-hat, which you mount to the hi-hat stand of your choice. And also, for the kick drum, any single or double kick drum pedal will attach to it. Now, all these components mount on our 4-post chrome rack, and all of the hardware is adjustable just like you would have on an acoustic kit. Plus, the rack clamps have a locking technology, so when you fold up the rack and take it to your gig, and then you unfold it at the gig, it's not a dodecahedron. The Strike Pro is also available in a more compact configuration called the Strike Kit. So this will take the same Strike Pro kit and remove the 14-inch tom and 2 of these 14-inch crashes. The rack is slightly smaller to accommodate, but everything else is the same. Now, all these components plug into our most advanced drum module to date, the Strike module. Now, let's take a closer look at selecting kits, editing kits, and all of the great features of the module. One of our goals with the Strike module was to give a ton of kits that you could have fun with right off the bat, but also the options on the module to edit it and make a sound your own. So the Strike module comes with 110 preset kits, which are made up of over 1,700 instruments, and those instruments are made up of over 14,000 samples. So every sound imaginable is in here, and you also have a bunch of kits to have fun with right away. The first thing you'll notice is a 4.3-inch color screen. Now this is great because you get feedback on what's happening on the kit and a lot of information about what you're editing, so you never have to dive too deep into menus. And on the left-hand side, you'll see our 12-channel mixer, which allows you to rebalance your kit live and have a nice, beautiful screen to see those adjustments in real time. We also have a built-in metronome, which you can turn on with one button. And you can adjust the tempo by either hitting the tap tempo button 3 times or more, or you can just hold the tempo button down and scroll the data wheel. And if you want to adjust the sounds or the time signature for the metronome, just press one button. The utility menu right there lets you adjust everything. On the rear panel, we'll have the 13 individual trigger inputs, and Strike Pro includes the cabling you need to connect to your kit with the correct lengths and labeled. And right below that, you'll see 8 individual audio outputs. This is what you can use to send the individual drums to a mixer for a live or a recording situation if you want to make your own mix or apply your own effects to it. Moving along, we have traditional MIDI inputs and outputs, an SD card slot, and an included 8GB SD card, and this is what you'll use to save all your kits and instruments, and a USB MIDI connection, which is also used for computer updates and working with the Strike software editor. We have an 1/8-inch stereo aux input. This can be used to plug your smartphone or your MP3 player in and play along with it. It has a dedicated volume control on the top panel. And you can also record right into the module as well, right to the SD card, and play along with that or assign sounds to your drums. And finally, we have 2 1/4-inch balanced outputs for your main output, and that has its own knob on the top as well. So, as I mentioned before, Strike comes with 110 preset kits, and changing the kits is very, very easy. You can just scroll the data wheel here. But you also have user kits, which are the ones that you've saved yourself, and they're actually saved right on your 8GB SD card, which is included. How many user kits do you have? It's actually virtually unlimited. Depends on how much space you have on the card. One card can hold hundreds and hundreds of kits, and you can obviously use other cards or get bigger cards if you want to as well, up to 32GB. So it's virtually unlimited. Now with 110 preset kits, it's great to have this list mode, which is an easy way of filtering the kits on the module by category, and then scrolling and loading. We'll go back up to our first kit here. Scroll down and load a new one, and go back. And one thing you'll notice now at the bottom right corner is a streaming bar. Now with Strike, we wanted to have the highest quality sounds and the best playing, most realistic drum sets, and to do that requires a lot of samples, and a lot of samples take a lot of space. Fortunately, when you load a new kit on Strike, it's immediately playable. There is no delay, and it starts filling in all the rest of the samples in the background. Now there's a lot of editing you can do in the Strike module, but the thing people are going to want to do first is changing the sound assigned to a drum, and we made that really easy. You just press the voice button and then the instrument F4 button, and you have your instrument browser here. Now you can select which drum you're editing at the top right corner there, or you can turn on this note chase feature and just tap whatever drum that you want to edit and quickly change it, so you can build a brand new kit in just minutes. Okay, so now that we've selected the sound we want to assign to each drum, let's go through some of the deeper editing options in the voice menu. So we're selected on the snare here, and we have a few different menus. The level menu lets us adjust the decay, the pan left to right, and the overall level of drums, and there's 2 layers of instruments per drum. So you can have a snare drum on the top and then layer a percussion item or any of the other 1700 sounds underneath the first one. There's a tone menu that lets you adjust the pitch and also the cutoff, so you can filter the sound, filter out the high or the low frequencies. A velocity menu, which lets you change the way the drum sounds depending on how hard you hit it. And then in this FX MIDI menu, you have the ability to adjust how much reverb is being applied to that drum and how much of the FX is being applied to that drum. And the effects are adjusted in the Kit Effects menu, where you have one set of reverbs and one set of FX that all the drums are sent to. Now you have one place to edit your effects, but you can still individually decide how much of each effect a drum gets. Now let's talk a little bit about the triggers menu. We press the triggers button. Now this is the place where you're going to adjust how the drums perform with the module. So not as much how each individual sound comes out, but more how it feels when you're playing it. Now Strike Pro is configured to play great out of the box, but there will be some things you want to adjust, mainly just the sensitivity, because some people play softer than other people. Now, we actually have an easy way to do this. There's a global sensitivity adjustment, and it's actually in our utility menu, in the trigger F3 section, and the trig sensitivity can be low, medium, or high. This is an easy way for you to adjust the sensitivity on all the drums at once, instead of doing it individually. But if you want to do it individually, just press the triggers button, and again, you can use the note chase feature to change the drum that you're selected on. And the only one you'll really spend most of your time worrying about is the sensitivity setting. This will make it so higher numbers make the drum louder, essentially, and lower numbers make it so you have to hit harder to get those louder sounds. There's also a sensitivity knob on each tom and the snare drum that allow you to make further adjustments. What this does is it spreads out the hitting area from the outside or brings it in towards the center. Now, most will keep this at the 12 o'clock position right in the center, but feel free to experiment. Okay, let's go over one of my favorite features, the sample mode. I have my mobile device plugged into the aux input on the back of the module, and we're going to record directly into the module, and I'll show you a couple cool things we can do with this. So we're going to hit record, and we have a record menu right here, and I'm going to start playing on my phone and turn up the volume, and then hit the record button again to start, and now we're recording. And I'll stop recording there and stop on my phone. And now you can see we instantly get the waveform that we just recorded right on the menu. So now let's turn this into a seamless loop. We have our start and end markers, which we can easily move by pressing the button and moving the data wheel. So let's find a nice loop area here. And I see the endpoint right there, so I'm going to get close to it, and then I can hold the end button to make sure I get right down on the beginning of it. And this is the key to making sure our loop is seamless. Let's hold the start down as well and make sure we're right where we need to be. And we have the loop mode on. So let me just press play and see what we got. Not too bad for the first try. So now that we have a nice loop highlighted, I'm going to show you the grid mode. I press this F3 to turn on the grid mode. And what this does is it takes the tempo that the metronome is at for the module, and it shows you what the quarter notes are for that, or the eighth notes, or the 16th notes. So why would we want this? I'll show you a couple ways. So once the grid mode is on, the end marker is automatically synchronized to it. So you can turn this loop into a different time signature. This is great for practicing. And another cool thing you can do is use this as a way to make a single kind of one-shot sound that you're going to assign to a drum. So let's actually turn the loop mode off. And we're going to take the start marker and move this around and find a good one-shot sample. That should be good enough. And now to save it as an instrument and assign it to a drum, we just hit the save button. It's going to ask us if we want to do a full, which will save the entire recording you made, trimmed, which will save just the area between the left and the right markers, or inst for instrument. This is what we'll do now. We'll save this. It'll ask us which user category we want to save it to, and I'll just hit F1 to select the acoustic. And then it will give us a place to rename this. You can name it any way you want just by scrolling the data wheel. I'll just keep it as new loop 003 for now, and I'll press save. And just like that, this is now in our instrument library. So if I go to our voice mode and into instrument, and then I go to user, I can see our new loop 0003 is right there. So I just recorded a sound from the aux input, looped it so I could play along with it, and then took a little snippet of it to assign it directly to a drum in under 10 seconds. Finally, there's a software editor available for Mac or PC. You connect your Strike module to your computer via USB cable, and the Strike editor has two modes. The Kit editor, where you take everything that we just showed here, and you have a nice, beautiful one-to-one menu to do all your editing, and then save the kits directly onto the SD card in the module. But then there's also something brand new, the Instrument editor. This will let you take all of the instruments and all of those samples and rearrange them and save brand new instruments. But best yet, it will let you take your samples and import them again directly onto the SD card and build new instruments from scratch. So one of my favorite features in the instrument editor is a feature we call Auto Map. Now, when you're doing drum sampling, whether you're making a realistic acoustic drum or just some kind of fun electronic sound, it can involve a lot of samples and a lot of mapping and typing in numbers. This auto map feature lets you take a whole handful of samples. It automatically detects the level of each sample and then maps it into the proper velocity ranges. So basically, you turn an entire collection of samples into an instrument instantly. So it's great for creating realistic drums, but there's also some cool things you can do creatively to get some unexpected results. So what I did here was take a percussion loop I recorded myself, and I split it up into little 16th note chunks, and I threw all these samples at the auto mapper, and here's what happened. So there you have it, the Strike Pro Kit. I'm very happy to have been involved in the development of this instrument, and I know you're going to love it. Once again, this has been Dan Recchia with Kraft Music. Thanks for watching.